Hi, everyone. So today's topic is going to be the three common mistakes from high achievers. And I actually was listening to Brandon Burchard, and he had talked about this. And I was like, I see this a lot from other people. So I was like, this is something that I would love to share. Um, so the first one is going to be superiority, like the high minded. And so when most people they get to a certain level of success, sometimes their ego starts getting elevated and boosted. And so when people start having a superiority complex or they're high minded, meaning that they feel like they're higher than other people, that can be a really big mistake in when you hit a certain level of success. So when you start treating people differently or like they're beneath you, or you start having the mindset like you're better than somebody else or better than other people, and I think that's a big flaw. And we see this in our industry a lot when sometimes people, um, they just carry a sense of arrogance sometimes if they think they've made it. And you never know with, our journeys now. You could be successful one day and few years or a year later, you could be rock bottom again. And so people always remember how you make them feel, how you treat people. And I think it's very important, regardless of what your level of success or your pocketbook looks like or bank looks like. I think it's important that you always treat people with respect and not have a level of superiority or let your ego get to your head. And I like the saying, don't let failure get to your heart, but don't let success get to your head. And I experience this a lot. I grew up in the service industry, and I always remember, working in the convenience store or working at a restaurant, how sometimes people are just so rough, and how people would mistreat me or how they would talk to me, and they make you feel like you're dumb or you're less than. And it's really sad because I pay attention to that when I go to my business meetings or I go out for lunch or dinner with potential partners or potential investors, people that I want to see if I want to do business with. And the reality of it is, I'm not going to do business with people I don't like. And so, if they mistreat the average person, is just like we've all been there, and we know what it feels like to be treated or looked down upon or be belittled or spoken down to. I never want anybody to be made felt that way. And so I think that's a big flaw and a trap that people can get to when they have that superiority complex. The second common pitfall that Brandon was talking about that I really agree about is dissatisfaction. So, as high achievers, you hear this, what's next? What's next? You achieve one thing, and then what's the next milestone? And there's a difference between growth. I mean, obviously, I'm a big believer of CANI, constant and never ending improvement. But I'm also a big believer of enjoying the journey and being grateful for where you are right now, for what you have right now, who you become, your loved ones. And so enjoying that process and truly celebrating, where you are every step of the way. And so sometimes, the next thing is, you keep going and you think, oh, once I hit a million, once I hit 10 million, once I hit 100 million. And if you don't really achieve inner happiness and peace and like be grateful for the present moment, then it's never enough. That's the reality. You think that the next million or the next milestone or the next amount of doors or the next amount of businesses. And the reality is, if you're not happy and if you can't create happiness where you are currently and continue to still grow and learn, you'll never truly be happy because it'll never be enough. And so I see this journey of people sacrificing their health, sacrificing their marriages, sacrificing their time with their children, sacrificing all sorts of things for this thing that they think that they want to make them happy. And they're never satisfied. They're grumpy, even if you're like, oh my God, you have everything in the world that you can dream of, and you're still not happy, right? And so I think that's a big flaw for high achievers is sometimes just being so aggressive in the journey of growth that you're not content with where you are currently with full gratitude. And I think that's important to be able to slow down and truly enjoy that process. And it's hard work, yes. It's never easy, no, right? But that's part of the journey. And so part of the training in self-development is how do I have resources and tools to enjoy the current journey? So I'm not always feeling like I'm in the grind. I'm constantly in the grind, and I'm trying to reach a destination that once I think I get there, I'm still not content. And so dissatisfaction is a big one for overachievers or high achievers because it's always like the next thing, right? And the third thing I want to talk about is neglect. And neglect in different aspects. Neglect in, taking your eyes off the ball, and also neglect in like what are the steps and the things that you did to get you where you are successful. And so sometimes when you hit a level of success, a lot of people start taking their foot off the gas, and they're just kind of in chill mode. They get comfortable. They start slacking off on the things that got them successful in the first place. And so that's a huge area of neglect. And it's the same, not just in business, it's the same in relationships. In the beginning, when it's, you're excited, you're dating, you're courting one another, you're doing these little things. And once you get married, you have children, and you start getting into where you don't do the things you normally would do anymore that got you successful and got you into the relationship where you were. And so that's why things fall apart. And so you have to be really intentional about, keeping the momentum and doing those tasks that got you successful, and then as you're growing and scaling, yes, you can hire teams, you can delegate, but those main foundational core items still need to be done in your business, in your relationships. And so I encourage you all to make sure, and myself included, right? These are all things that I constantly have to remind myself and I'm working on, because I see people go from having millions, not being happy, sacrificing their health and, and their marriages and their relationships and their children. And I talk to so many people who are uber successful billionaires and things. And I always like to ask them, like, what is one thing that you wish you could have done differently? And a lot of the answer is, I wish I would have spent more time, quality time with the people I loved. Whether they lost someone they loved and they just live with regret that they never got to spend good time with them, or they've lost marriages, broken up because they didn't give them the attention. They thought, hey, if I made a lot of money, that my significant other would be super happy. That's not what they need. Your money, money is a vehicle, yes. But if you're always in the grind and you don't have the time to truly be present with your family and your children, and your love and your presence isn't truly with them, all the money in the world doesn't really make much difference. Yeah, it's nice to have some extra money. That's always great. But like, if you don't have the true connection, true presence and love, I mean, what's the point of having all that uber success? And so I think that's, one of those things that is important. I remember, when I talk about the superiority, and people, sometimes they just boast and everything that they have, and they treat everybody around them really poorly. That is such a turnoff. I remember getting into the real estate industry, especially multifamily, and people sometimes wouldn't treat me very nice. And I'm always very kind. I'm always learning. I'm always trying to get out there. I show up to conferences, and I'm always nice, regardless if someone doesn't treat me fairly, or they belittle me, or they just kind of bypass me as whatever. I I don't let that get to me, but I remember those people, and then fast forward, 5, 6 years later, and then now they're trying to be my friend. I always kind of giggle inside. I'm like, you are the same person who was so rude to me and like would ignore me if I'm trying to have a conversation with you, and you would cut me off, or you wouldn't give me a second thought. And now you're trying to be my friend. Like, no, that doesn't work that way. Money doesn't buy friendships. Like, I don't deal with people like that. And so it turns me off. Like, it doesn't matter how much that business relationship could make me in profit. If they just treat people poorly, and that's their value system and their character, yeah, I'm not doing business with people like that. I don't want anybody like that in my circle. Um, and so, three takeaways again. Remember, superiority, dissatisfaction, and what did I say the last one was? What did I say? Neglect. That's right. Don't get your eyes off of the ball. But hope that helps, and join me in next time. Remember to live and give and be kind. Bye, everyone.